strong children's ministry programs in our churches today are crucial to the eternal foundation of the future generation. So you may ask, what should children's ministry look like? It should have the meat of the word, it should equip for ministry, and they should be able to experience the presence. Let me break this down a little bit. So meat of the word. It is so important to teach children the meat of the word and not just some Bible stories about Jonah and the whale, the Tower of Babel, or Daniel in the lion's den. Yes, these stories are important. I'm not saying they're not important. But if that's all we're teaching them, they're missing a lot, the big point and the big picture. They're missing about salvation and about ministry and reaching out to other people. They'll get these stories and they'll be cute little stories that they can remember for the rest of their life, but what's the bigger picture? What are they actually learning about those stories? Are they just hearing the stories and going home? We need to be teaching them the meat and making them not just the infants in the Bible that says they're just drinking on milk. They're more than capable of learning and digging deeper into these topics and digging deeper into things. Sometimes we think they're children and they aren't capable and they just aren't really smart or won't get it. But kids show time and time again they are more than equipped to learn and dig deeper, that they actually thrive on this when you go and dig deeper into the Word and tell them about Jesus and about His life and about His ministry and dig into the deeper topics that you might be scared to because they're children. They need that to go further on into life. And when they're old, then they need to know these things and go on as in their future and know these things. So the next is equip for ministry. We also need to equip these children for ministry. If we're just telling them these Bible stories, they don't know that they are just as equipped to go into the world and to minister to people in their schools and their families if they aren't Christian. If we don't teach them about Jesus and salvation and to go minister to other people, how are they going to know how to do that? It says that don't let anyone look down on you because you are young, but set an example for the believers in speech and life and love and faith and in purity in 1 Timothy 4:12. It's talking about children and not letting anyone look down on you because you are young, but that you can be an example. And we need to teach that to these kids, that they are examples in their homes, in their schools, and that they can reach other people around them. Also, experience the presence. This is another important thing, that in children's church, we need to be able to teach children how to experience the presence of God. A lot of children think that only adults can hear from God. So they ask advice of adults and try to see what they say. But they can hear from God just as much, and they need to be seeing what God says to them and hear God for themselves instead of relying on other people. Because when they're 40 years old, they're not going to rely on other people and their parents. They need to learn how to rely on hearing God themselves. And they can start doing that at a young age so that when they get older, they already know how to do it and already have those principles taught to them. So children's church today mostly looks like putting kids into a room, giving them a coloring page, telling them a Bible story at most, and giving them a snack and calling it a day. Children's church today is mostly looked at as just a way for the kids to have a place to go so that the adults can go to church and learn about God. Because that's what church is about, right? It's about the adults learning about God. But that's not true. While they're there, the children can also be equipped and be learning about God as well, not just at a daycare or babies and being babysat while the parents are getting the real church. The real church needs to be in the children's church as well. The Barna group has a couple of statistics I would like to tell you. So one of them is around 80% of all Christians accepted Christ when they were 18 years or younger. So if these kids are in children's church and they haven't accepted Christ and you haven't taught them about salvation, about Christ, then how are they going to learn later on? And if it says that around 80% of all Christians were saved under the age of 18, then if they aren't learning this when they're young, what are the odds that when they get older they're going to accept Christ? Another statistic is what you believe at age 13 is most likely what you're going to die believing. Age 13 is really young. And so if you're in children's church and you're not learning these basic principles, these basic foundations of Christianity, when you get older, you're not going to be less likely to believe them, and you're not going to ever believe them. If you're, it says that most likely what you're going to believe at age 13 is what you're going to die believing. So those basic foundations need to be drilled into these children at a young age so that they can believe it when they're older. And lastly, it says in most cases, a person's spiritual beliefs are irrevocably formed by their preteens, which is 10 to 12 years old. which is also another thing that is, you can't reverse what was done 10 to 12 years of age. I mean, it can be, but it's very hard to reverse those things that they were taught at such a young age. It says in the Bible that teach a child in the way that it should go, and when it grows old, it will not depart. And so this is a perfect example of that, is that when they're young and you teach them these principles and you're telling them about God and the foundations of Christianity, even if they grow older and depart for a little while, even if they go off and fall back in their faith or whatever, they will come back eventually because of those foundations they were taught when they were younger. And this has been shown time and time again within children that have gone away from the faith and come back because of their deep roots in the faith when they were younger. And even in my own family, that has been true with family members. So in conclusion, we just really need to focus on teaching these kids at such a young age and getting them to go deeper in the roots and deeper in the meat of the Bible, because that way when they're older, they won't depart from their ways. That way that they will already have their foundations laid, and that you can build upon that as they get older.